Alright everyone, happy Osama bin Laden. He's very, very happy because a report has come to light that initially comes from the 2010s. Now, you have to take this sort of release with a grain of salt because it's saying, well, during the Osama raid, and of course, Osama, I believe, was dead before that, and they just took some random dead body and dumped it in the ocean. To be clear, it would have been so riddled with bullets, identifying it would have been kind of difficult. Maybe they were given orders. They're like, oh shit, we just confirmed what Benazir Bhutto said years ago. Osama really did die of kidney failure several years ago. Well, we can't go home empty-handed. Let's raid this compound and shoot somebody. It's Al-Qaeda owned, so it doesn't really matter. We'll do our service. And then most of those Navy SEALs mysteriously died not long after. Anyway, they found paperwork there and a lot of Coca-Cola and porn, which is even funnier. And one of the letters, this was initially reported on almost a decade ago, said that actually Osama had told people not to target Joe Biden under any circumstances because they were actually, they were hoping that he would be the president because he was grossly incompetent and negligent in his duties. Now imagine how happy Osama would be now, knowing that there are still attacks on the Fourth and First Amendment by the U.S. government, that Joe Biden's president, his reckless spend and spend policies are destroying the economy, and he has dementia. That wouldn't have been part of it back then. Biden was 69, 70 years old. He wasn't demented at that time. A little slowing down mentally maybe, like everyone unfortunately has to do, generally speaking. But he didn't have dementia. He could put his own socks on. In Joe Biden's words, he could walk and chew gum at the same time. These days he might accidentally choke. I'm sure his wife makes sure that he sits down before he opens the Bazooka Joe pack. If he can even chew his way through it into softness. Anyway, first and foremost, if you're watching this video on YouTube, keep in mind there will be a pinned comment down below with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. I make 2 exclusive videos every day there that do not go on YouTube for various reasons. Algorithm, verboten topics, my verboten opinions on otherwise acceptable topics like certain medical topics we won't speak about on YouTube. What a stinger. What a ringing rebuke of Joe Biden when Osama bin Laden is actively hoping that you're the president of the United States. Yes, because it would be funny to see the Democrats try to circle this around Psaki style and say, well, Osama did have some good ideas. Oh yeah, he was wrong about Joe. No, he's completely right. Look at what Joe Biden's accomplished. The inverse of everything good has been done since Joe Biden's asterisk administration began. He has re-regulated things, striking out the deregulatory efforts of Trump. He stalled the wall construction leading to the border crisis. Then he silently reimposed the remaining money and said, well, yeah, after all the monitoring systems were already paid for, I guess we'll put them on the improved wall infrastructure. Now that I'm taking flack for it politically, and it wasn't until the last week or so, really in the wake of Afghanistan falling, that the legacy media even talked about things. But now I'll tell you what's happening. The problem for Biden is that now that the legacy media has a cause to criticize him, which it didn't before, only Fox, only legacy network that criticized him was Fox. MSNBC, CNN, all these others, they glazed over, softballed him, and talked about his favorite ice cream flavor. The problem for Biden is that now a deluge is coming. The cracks in the dam have exploded and all the water is flooding out. It's not just about Afghanistan. It's not just about his botched Kabul withdrawal. That's definitely big on people's minds. But then when people realize now that the cognitive dissonance is dissipating, because the legacy media is no longer proclaiming everything that he does is magical and perfect, now people are also thinking about the border crisis, which is unimpeded. Inflation, which is unimpeded. Price index soaring out of sight unseen. Because all of these things now are legitimate criticisms because the legacy media has told lemming America that it's okay. Effectively, before he was shielded by the fact that literally no network that didn't cater just to partisan Republicans that fucking hate Biden to begin with and won't change their mind. All of the other networks with, Dem-leaning viewers, sometimes independents in their audience, all of them circled the wagons for the first 6 months of Biden's presidency. It didn't matter how bad inflation got. They were making excuses for him like, well, one silver lining for inflation is that wages might rise, which so far has not really been the case. I was debating, oh my God, this other person on Twitter who claimed that, well, we have 5.4% inflation, but growth over this last year has been 18%. Ergo, things are getting better. I understand now why leftists should not manage economies, because they just don't know anything about accounting or about mathematics in general. which shouldn't come as a real surprise. But Osama apparently was overjoyed at the prospect that Biden could be in the presidency, and it didn't get his wish, of course, at the time, because Obama, younger dude, you don't really have to worry about most health problems when you're in your 40s. Relatively well put together in the physical sense. It was funny when he would do his thing where he'd have like the tights on and be lifting those little tiny hand weights and stuff. That was cringy, but yeah, he wasn't like a fat slob. He wasn't like racked with medical issues. But Biden is. And by the way, wouldn't this have come before Biden had had his first aneurysm? And I don't think he had ever had like a fall. He tried to blame the first fall that he had when he was candidate Biden was he's like, well, man, I was chasing my dog out of the shower to grab its tail and I fell down on the wet floor. Which shows, I think, if that tale is true, it shows a mental state that's even worse than if he's just lying and didn't want to admit that he just fucking staggered down the hall and almost broke his hip. Honestly, that would be the better possibility, because then it would show, well, maybe he's still with it. He just, his balance is going because he's older. And losing your balance isn't a reason to get 25th. I wouldn't be surprised if this report were true, though. Osama, of course, he basically has won. We're out of Afghanistan. We pissed away trillions there. Biden sealed the deal by botching the withdrawal, which means we've lost, effectively. Not that we were really in it to win anything other than driving opium prices down so that the prison pipeline could be fed more fentanyl addicts. We accomplished that. We get to test all of our cool toys that Raytheon was developing. So we basically, we did achieve our goal, like Antony Blinken there said. Yeah, because the goal was to develop the next gen of weapons and lower the heroin prices to kill people or put them in prison. That's basically what the goal of the U.S. government was. In that sense, we get an A+. Biden really... wonderful man. And everything else, fucking lost. After 9/11, a couple planes crash into a couple fucking buildings. What do? We bend over backwards and beg the government to get rid of the Fourth Amendment. So Osama was already chuckling then. He'd be chuckling even more if he hadn't died of kidney failure, as Benazir Bhutto said, years before the so-called raid. I still think that the bullet-macerated body that they pulled out of the compound, it could have been anyone. You know why we didn't get to see a picture of it? Because it would have been unrecognizable. It probably got pumped so full of fucking 45 cals or 556 or whatever was being used by the SEALs on that day. 50 cal. It probably ripped him to shreds. Oh yeah, this is Osama. Look, you can see a little bit of a beard there and a turban fragment here, and it's probably... I loved how they pretended that they did a genetic test. Well, if the body wasn't unrecognizable, why did you have to do the genetic test? And they didn't, folks. To tell the truth, that's one conspiracy theory I think definitely holds water. Those were rather mysterious circumstances. It was also very interesting how Obama almost immediately let the issue go and hoped that it fell out of the news cycle despite being the story of the century. Just saying. But I think that this particular paper from the compound, regardless of whether Osama was the one that wrote it, I think the command is real. They wanted Biden to be president. Well, once again, the Mujahideen, I guess, got their wish. That's about all. Peace out.